The day they threw my father-in-law out into the rain. I watched from the kitchen window and did nothing. I stood there with my hands gripping the edge of the sink, my knuckles white, my heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted to escape my chest. The rain was coming down in sheets, turning our driveway into a river. And there he was, 72 years old, Arthur Brennan, dragging a single suitcase behind him, his shoulders hunched against the storm. My husband Marcus stood in the doorway, arms crossed, face like stone. He didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just watched his father stumble down those porch steps like he was watching a stranger leave. If you've ever seen something you can never unsee, you know what I'm talking about. Please, if this story touches you, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Share your own family stories in the comments below. Sometimes we all need to know we're not alone in this messy, beautiful, heartbreaking thing called family. I should have stopped it. God knows I should have run out there, grabbed Arthur's arm, pulled him back inside. But I didn't, because I was angry too. Because for 3 years, Arthur had lived under our roof, and for 3 years, I had watched him slowly poison the well of our marriage with his bitterness, his complaints, his constant presence in every corner of our lives. But that moment when I saw him stumble on the last step, catching himself on the railing, his gray hair plastered to his skull, that's when I first felt it. The cold finger of regret touching the back of my neck. I'm Diane Brennan. I'm 34 years old. I work as a nurse at County General. I have 2 kids, and I live in a 3-bedroom house in Riverside, Ohio. Those are the facts. But here's the truth. I'm the woman who let her husband throw his father out into the rain, and I'm the woman who has to live with what happened next. Let me go back. Let me tell you how we got there. 3 years ago, Arthur's wife Marcus's mother, Patricia, died of a heart attack in the middle of their living room. She was 68. One minute she was folding laundry, the next she was gone. Just like that. No warning. No goodbye. Arthur found her when he came home from the hardware store. He called Marcus, and Marcus called me. And by the time we got to their house in Millbrook, 20 minutes away, the ambulance was already pulling away with the body. Arthur was sitting on the porch, not crying, just sitting, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. She was folding my shirts, he said when Marcus sat down beside him. She always folded the sleeves in first, then the body. I used to tell her it didn't matter. She'd say, "It matters to me, Arthur." That broke my heart, that detail, because I knew exactly what he meant. Those little things we do for the people we love, they're not nothing. They're everything. For 2 weeks after the funeral, Marcus drove out to Millbrook every day to check on his father. Arthur wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping. The house was dark, curtains drawn, dishes piling up in the sink. Marcus would come home exhausted, worried, carrying that tension in his shoulders like a backpack full of rocks. "He can't stay there alone," Marcus said one night as we lay in bed, the kids asleep down the hall. "He's disappearing, Diane. He's just fading." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe he should come live with us, just for a while, until he gets back on his feet." I sat up, looked at him in the darkness. "Marcus, we barely have enough room as it is. The kids are sharing a bedroom. We're saving for Emma's braces. And your dad, he's not the easiest person." Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "He's my father. What do you say to that? How do you argue with blood?" So Arthur moved in. We cleared out the basement, put in a bed, a small TV, a dresser, made it as comfortable as we could. Marcus carried his father's things down the stairs, boxes of books, a reading lamp, Patricia's wedding photo in a silver frame. At first, it was fine. Better than fine even. Arthur helped with the kids. He'd pick up our daughter Emma from soccer practice, help our son Kyle with his math homework. He'd make breakfast on Saturdays, his famous blueberry pancakes that Patricia used to make. He'd tell stories about Marcus as a kid, stories that made us all laugh until our sides hurt. "Your daddy was so scared of the dark," Arthur told Emma one night, his eyes twinkling, "that he used to sleep with 17 nightlights." 17! Your grandmother counted them. Marcus threw a dish towel at him, grinning. "I was 4, Dad. You were 9. Those were good days." I almost forgot what I'd been worried about. But grief is a strange animal. It doesn't heal in a straight line. Sometimes it circles back, teeth bared, ready to bite. Around month 6, Arthur started to change. The lightness went out of him. He stopped helping with the kids, stopped making breakfast. He'd sit in the basement for hours, staring at Patricia's photo, and when he came upstairs for dinner, he'd barely eat, just push food around his plate like it offended him. "This is too salty," he'd say. Or, "Patricia never made pork chops this dry." I'd bite my tongue, smile. "Sorry, Arthur. I'll do better next time." But it got worse. He started criticizing everything. The way I folded laundry wrong. The way I organized the kitchen inefficient. The way I disciplined the kids too soft. He'd sit in the living room like a king on a throne, remote in hand, controlling what we watched, when we watched it, how loud it could be. "Can we please watch something other than the History Channel?" I asked one night, exhausted from a 12-hour shift. "This is educational," Arthur said, not looking at me. "The kids should learn something instead of rotting their brains on cartoons." "Dad," Marcus said carefully, "Diane just got home. Maybe we can." I said no. The air in the room went cold. Emma and Kyle looked at each other, then at me. I saw the question in their eyes. Why doesn't Dad say something? But Marcus didn't. He just looked at his father, then at me, then down at his hands. And something inside me cracked. That night, after the kids were in bed, I cornered Marcus in our bedroom. "We need to talk about your father." "I know." "Do you?" "Because he's taking over our house, Marcus. Our life. He's treating me like hired help. He's making the kids uncomfortable. And you're not doing anything about it." Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing his face. "He's grieving, Diane. We're all grieving. You lost your mother. The kids lost their grandmother. But we don't get to treat people like garbage because we're sad. He lost his wife of 45 years, I know that." My voice cracked. "I know. I'm not heartless. But he's drowning us, Marcus. And you're letting him." Marcus looked up at me then, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Resentment. "What do you want me to do, Diane? Throw him out? He's my father. He has nowhere else to go. I want you to set boundaries. I want you to stand up for your family. For me. You're not my only family." Those words hung in the air between us like poison. I felt them settle into my bones, cold and heavy. "Fine," I whispered. "Fine." I slept on the couch that night, and the night after that, and the night after that. The months crawled by. Arthur got worse, started making demands, wanted his meals at specific times, didn't like the brand of coffee I bought, complained when the kids were too loud, when they were too quiet, when they breathed too heavily in his general direction. I started working extra shifts just to stay away from the house. Marcus buried himself in his job at the accounting firm, leaving early, coming home late. The kids tiptoed around their own home like it was a minefield. Emma started having nightmares. Kyle's grades dropped. Our marriage was a shell, held together by routine and exhaustion and the sheer momentum of years. I remember one night. It was February. Bitter cold. Snow piled up outside when I came home at midnight from a double shift. I was so tired I could barely see straight. I just wanted to collapse into bed. But when I walked in, Arthur was sitting at the kitchen table in the dark. "You're late," he said. I jumped. "Jesus, Arthur, you scared me." Dinner was cold. I had to heat it up myself. I stared at him. "You're a grown man. You can't heat up a plate of food?" "Patricia never made me wait." Something in me snapped. "Patricia isn't here, Arthur. She's gone, and I am not her." He stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. "No, you're not. Patricia was a real woman, knew how to take care of her family. You're never here. Too busy playing nurse to strangers while your own family falls apart." The words hit me like a slap. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "Get out of my kitchen. This is my son's house. Get out." He left, went down to the basement, and I stood there shaking, my hands gripping the counter, trying not to scream. Marcus came home 20 minutes later, found me sitting on the kitchen floor crying. "What happened?" I told him, every word, and I watched his face as I spoke. Watched for some flicker of anger, some sign that he'd finally had enough. But all I saw was weariness. "He's just hurting, Diane. So am I." I shouted. "So are the kids. So are you. When do we matter? Marcus knelt down beside me, took my hands. I'll talk to him. I promise. I'll set some boundaries. We'll figure this out. But he didn't. Days turned into weeks, turned into months, and nothing changed. Marcus talked to Arthur, sure. Gentle conversations that went nowhere. Arthur would nod, agree, promise to do better. Then he'd go right back to his old ways. I started to hate coming home, started to resent Marcus, started to feel like a stranger in my own life. Then came April 15th, the day everything broke. I was making dinner, spaghetti and meatballs. Nothing fancy, and Arthur came upstairs. He looked at the stove, wrinkled his nose. Spaghetti again? We had Italian food last week. I didn't even look at him, just kept stirring the sauce. Then make your own dinner, Arthur. What did you say to me? I turned around, looked him right in the eye. I said, make your own dinner. I'm not your servant. I'm not Patricia, and I'm done pretending to be. His face went red. How dare you speak to me that way? Marcus. Marcus came running from the living room. What's wrong? Your wife, Arthur spat, pointing at me like I was something dirty. Just disrespected me in my own home. This isn't your home, I said quietly. It's ours. And you're a guest who's overstayed his welcome. Diane Marcus started, but Arthur cut him off. A guest? A guest? I'm your father, Marcus. I raised you, changed your diapers, paid for your college. And this is how you repay me, by letting this woman talk to me like I'm nothing. I felt something cold settle over me. Marcus, it's time. He needs to go. Marcus looked between us, his face pale. Everyone just calm down. No, I said. No more calming down. No more excuses. He goes. Or I do. You choose. The kitchen went silent. I could hear the sauce bubbling on the stove. Could hear Emma and Kyle in the next room, pretending not to listen. Arthur laughed. A bitter, ugly sound. You see, son? You see what kind of woman you married? She'd throw your own father out on the street. Blood means nothing to her. Blood doesn't give you the right to abuse people. I shot back. Blood doesn't excuse cruelty. Cruelty? Arthur's voice rose. You want to talk about cruelty? I lost my wife, the only woman I ever loved. And you? You selfish, cold-hearted, that's enough. Marcus's voice cracked through the kitchen like thunder. We both froze. I'd never heard him yell like that. That's enough, Dad. Diane's right. You've crossed a line. You can't talk to her that way. Arthur stared at his son. What? You heard me. You need to apologize. And you need to start looking for your own place. This isn't working. I felt hope flutter in my chest. Finally. But Arthur's face twisted into something ugly. You're choosing her over me? Your own father? I'm choosing my family. My wife. My kids. You're part of that family, Dad. But you don't get to treat them like this. Fine. Arthur's voice went cold, flat. Fine, you want me gone? I'll go, but you'll regret this, son. Both of you. You'll regret the day you turned your back on me. He went downstairs, started packing, and 20 minutes later, there he was, dragging his suitcase to the front door. It was pouring rain. The kind of rain that soaks you to the bone in seconds, Dad, Marcus said, his voice softer now. Wait until morning. Wait until the rain stops. You want me gone? I'm gone. At least let me drive you somewhere. A hotel. I don't want anything from you. And he walked out. Into the rain. Into the night. Marcus stood in the doorway for a long time, watching him go. I stood at the kitchen window, my hands on the sink, my heart pounding. Emma came up behind me. Mom, where's Grandpa going? I couldn't answer, couldn't speak. Just watched Arthur disappear into the rain, his figure getting smaller and smaller until the darkness swallowed him whole. Marcus closed the door, locked it, stood there with his hand on the knob, his head bowed. He'll be fine, I said, but I didn't believe it. He'll go to a hotel. He'll call one of his friends. Marcus didn't answer, just walked past me, down the hall, into our bedroom, shut the door. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain, wondering where Arthur was, if he'd found shelter, if he was okay. But I told myself it wasn't my problem anymore. He'd made his choice. We'd made ours. I had no idea that choice would destroy everything. The first 2 weeks after Arthur left, there was peace. Strange, guilty peace. but peace nonetheless. The house felt lighter, bigger. The kids laughed more. Marcus and I started talking again, real talking, not just logistics and schedules. We had movie night with Emma and Kyle, made popcorn, watched comedies that made us snort, laugh like teenagers. I woke up without that knot of dread in my stomach. But Marcus was different, quieter. He'd stare out the window sometimes, coffee cup in hand, lost in thought. I'd catch him checking his phone, and when I'd ask who he was texting, he'd say nobody and put it away. Have you heard from him? I asked one night. No, are you worried? Marcus was quiet for a long time. He's a grown man, Diane. He can take care of himself. But his voice didn't match his words, and I knew that guilt was eating him alive. I tried calling Arthur myself. His phone went straight to voicemail. I tried again the next day, and the next. Nothing. Maybe he changed his number. I said to Marcus. Maybe you should drive out to Millbrook. Check the old house. See if he went back there. Marcus shook his head. He wouldn't. Too many memories. But I could see the worry growing in him. The shadows under his eyes. The way he'd wake up in the middle of the night and just lie there, staring at the ceiling. Then, 3 weeks after Arthur left, Marcus got a phone call. I was at work when it happened. 12-hour shift in the air. Chaos and blood and screaming. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I couldn't answer. Buzzed again. By the time I got my break and checked, I had 17 missed calls from Marcus. My heart dropped. I called him back immediately. He answered on the first ring. Diane. His voice was strange, hollow. You need to come home. What's wrong? Are the kids okay? The kids are fine. Just come home. Now. I left work early. Drove like a maniac through traffic, my hands shaking on the wheel. 1,000 terrible scenarios ran through my head. Car accident. Heart attack. Emma. Kyle. Marcus. But when I burst through the front door, Marcus was sitting at the kitchen table, alive, whole, staring at a piece of paper in his hands. What happened? I asked, breathless. What's wrong? He looked up at me. His eyes were red. He's dead. The world tilted. What? My father, Arthur. He's dead. I sank into the chair across from him. How? Marcus slid the paper across the table. It was a letter, handwritten. I recognized Arthur's cramped, precise handwriting immediately. The police found him this morning, Marcus said, his voice flat, mechanical, in a motel room outside Columbus. He'd been dead for days. Heart attack, oh my God. They found this letter on the nightstand, addressed to me. I looked down at the letter. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely read it. Marcus, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Don't blame yourself. Don't blame Diane. This is not about blame. This is about consequence. Since your mother died, I have been a ghost. I know that. I have been bitter and angry and cruel. I have taken my pain and thrown it at the people who loved me most. That is the truth. And I am not so proud that I cannot admit it. But here is another truth. I am your father. I raised you. I loved you. And when I needed you most, you chose a woman you've known for 12 years over a man who has loved you for 40. That is your right. But it has consequences. I have spent the last 3 weeks in this motel room thinking about your mother, about you, about the life I had and the life I lost. And I have come to understand something. I am not wanted. I am not needed. I am a burden, an inconvenience, a problem to be solved. So I am solving it. I have changed my will. Everything I have, the house in Millbrook, the savings, the life insurance, everything Patricia and I built together, all of it is going to the Children's Hospital in Columbus. Every penny. You will not inherit a dime. But that's not the revenge, son. The revenge is this. You will have to live with what you did. You will have to look at yourself in the mirror every day and know that you threw your father away like garbage. You will have to explain to Emma and Kyle why they never got to say goodbye to their grandfather. You will have to lie next to Diane at night and wonder if she was worth it. That is my gift to you. The gift of truth. The gift of consequence. I do not forgive you, but I hope, someday, you forgive yourself. Your father, Arthur Brennani, read it twice, 3 times. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. Marcus, I whispered. Marcus, I'm so sorry, don't. His voice was sharp, cold. Don't apologize. You wanted him gone. You got your wish. That's not fair, isn't it? He looked at me, and the hatred in his eyes froze my blood. You pushed and pushed and pushed until I broke, until I turned my back on my own father. And now he's dead, alone, in a motel room, dead. He had a heart attack. That's not our fault. We threw him out in the rain. Marcus's voice cracked. He stood up so fast his chair fell over. We threw a 72-year-old man out of his home in a thunderstorm, and he died alone and scared and hating us. That is our fault. That is my fault. I stood up, reaching for him. Marcus, please, he jerked away. Don't touch me. I can't. I can't even look at you right now. He walked out, grabbed his keys, left. I stood in the kitchen alone. Arthur's letter still clutched in my hands, and I understood. This was just the beginning. The funeral was small. A handful of Arthur's old friends from Millbrook. Some distant cousins Marcus barely knew. The kids didn't understand why Grandpa was in a box, why everyone was crying, why their father looked like a stranger. Marcus didn't speak to me the entire time, didn't hold my hand, didn't acknowledge my presence. I stood beside him at the graveside, watching them lower Arthur into the ground. And I felt like I was watching my marriage being buried alongside him. To the wake. One of Arthur's friends, a woman named Helen, maybe 75, with kind eyes and white hair, pulled me aside. You're Diane, aren't you? Yes. Arthur talked about you. Near the end, my throat tightened. He did? Helen nodded. He came to see me about a week before he died. Showed up at my door looking lost. We had tea, talked for hours. He told me what happened, how you'd kicked him out. Shame burned through me. It wasn't. It was complicated. I'm sure it was. Helen's voice was gentle, not accusing. He told me he'd been awful to you. Said he knew it. Said grief had made him into someone he didn't recognize. I stared at her. He said that. He did. He said he'd driven away the only family he had left. Said he didn't know how to fix it. Said maybe it was too broken to fix. Helen squeezed my hand. He was a proud man, Diane. Too proud. But at the end, I think he understood. I think he knew. Then why the letter? I whispered. Why be so cruel? Helen's eyes were sad. Because pride doesn't die easily. And sometimes when we're hurting, we want others to hurt too. It's not right. But it's human. She walked away, leaving me standing there, tears streaming down my face. That night, Marcus slept in the basement, in Arthur's old room. He slept there for a week, then 2, then a month. We moved through the house like ghosts. I'd make breakfast for the kids, pack their lunches, drop them at school, go to work, come home, make dinner, do homework, bedtime routine. And through it all, Marcus was there but not there. A shadow, a stranger. The kids felt it. Of course they did. Why doesn't Daddy sleep in your room anymore? Emma asked one night. He's sad, baby. About Grandpa. Is he mad at you? I couldn't lie to her. Yes, I think he is. Why? How do you explain adult guilt and grief and blame to a 9-year-old? Sometimes when people are sad, they need someone to be angry at. It helps them feel less sad. That doesn't make sense. I know, baby. I know. Kyle started acting out at school, got into fights, talked back to teachers. His principal called me in for a conference. Kyle is clearly processing some difficult emotions at home. She said carefully, "Is everything all right with your family?" I wanted to laugh, to scream, to tell her that everything was falling apart, that my marriage was dying, that my husband hated me, that I'd destroyed our family by trying to save it. Instead, I said, "We're managing. It's been a difficult few months. Perhaps family therapy might help." I brought it up to Marcus that night. He was in the kitchen making a sandwich, and I just blurted it out. Kyle's principal thinks we should try family therapy. Marcus didn't even look at me. Fine. Fine. Whatever you think is best, Diane. You always know what's best. The bitterness in his voice was like acid. Marcus, please. We need to talk about this. About us. What's there to talk about? Everything. You won't even look at me. You're sleeping in the basement. The kids are falling apart. We're falling apart. Marcus finally turned to face me. His eyes were hollow, empty. My father is dead because of me, because I chose you over him. And I can't. I can't forgive myself for that. And I can't forgive you for making me choose. I didn't make you do anything. You gave me an ultimatum. His voice rose. You said him or you. What was I supposed to do? I was drowning, Marcus. We all were. He was destroying our family. He was grieving. So were we. The words hung in the air between us. Both of us breathing hard. Both of us crying. Finally, Marcus spoke. His voice was quiet, defeated. I think you should leave. My heart stopped. What? I think you should pack a bag and stay somewhere else for a while. I can't. I can't do this right now. I can't look at you without seeing him in that motel room. Alone. Dead. I need space. Marcus, please. His voice broke. Please, Diane, just go. So I did. Packed a bag. Kissed my sleeping kids goodbye. Drove to my sister's house across town. And that's where I stayed. For 3 months. While Marcus filed for separation. While lawyers got involved. While our life together unraveled like a sweater with a pulled thread. I saw the kids on weekends. They'd run to me, hug me, ask when I was coming home. And I'd lie and say, soon, baby, soon. While my heart shattered into smaller and smaller pieces. Marcus wouldn't talk to me except through lawyers. Wouldn't meet my eyes when we did pickups and drop-offs. He was a stranger. The man I'd loved for 14 years was gone. Replaced by this hollow, angry ghost. I started therapy. Spent hours on a worn couch in a cramped office. Talking to a woman named Dr. Chen about guilt and grief and whether I'd made the right choice. Do you think you did? She asked one day. I don't know anymore. I thought I was protecting my family, but I destroyed it instead. Did you destroy it? Or did the situation destroy it? There's a difference, is there? Dr. Chen leaned forward. Diane, you were in an impossible situation. A man in pain was hurting you and your children. You set a boundary. That's not wrong. The tragedy is that he couldn't or wouldn't respect that boundary, and the consequences were devastating, but that doesn't make you responsible for his death. Marcus thinks it does. Marcus is in pain. He's grieving, and he needs someone to blame. That's human, but it's not fair, and it's not the truth. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But late at night, lying in my sister's guest room, staring at the ceiling, I'd see Arthur's face, stumbling in the rain, alone in a motel room, dead. And I'd wonder, what if I'd just endured it? What if I'd been stronger, kinder, more patient? Would he still be alive? Would my family still be whole? Then, 6 months after Arthur died, I got a call from a lawyer I didn't recognize. Mrs. Brennan? This is Thomas Chen from Chen and Associates. I'm handling the estate of Arthur Brennan. My stomach dropped. Okay. I understand you and Mr. Marcus Brennan are currently separated? Yes. Well, I have some information that might be relevant to both of you. Is there any way you could come to my office? And perhaps bring Mr. Brennan as well? I don't think he'll come if I ask. Try. Please. This is important. So I called Marcus. First time in 3 months. He answered on the 5th ring. What, Diane? There's a lawyer about Arthur's estate. He wants to meet with both of us. Silence. Then, I thought everything went to the hospital. That's what the letter said. But the lawyer says there's something we need to know. Another long silence. Fine. When? We met at the lawyer's office on a gray Tuesday afternoon. Sat in chairs on opposite sides of the room, not looking at each other. The air was thick with everything unsaid. Thomas Chen was a small man with wire-rimmed glasses and a gentle voice. He looked at us both with something like pity. Thank you for coming. I know this must be difficult. Neither of us responded. He opened a folder, pulled out papers. As you know, Arthur Brennan changed his will 3 weeks before his death. He left his entire estate, approximately $780,000, including the house, savings, and life insurance, to Columbus Children's Hospital. Marcus nodded stiffly. We know, yes. However, Chen pulled out another document. What you may not know is that 2 days before he died, Arthur came to my office. He wanted to change his will again. My heart stuttered. What? He was lucid, coherent. He told me he'd made the first will in anger, said he needed to fix it before it was too late. He dictated a new will, leaving everything in trust for his grandchildren, Emma and Kyle Brennan, to be accessed when they turn 25. He also left a letter for both of you. Chen slid an envelope across the desk. Our names were written on the front in Arthur's handwriting. Marcus and I looked at each other for the first time in months. His hand was shaking as he reached for the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. We leaned in together, close enough that I could smell his cologne, the same cologne he'd worn since we started dating. The familiarity of it broke something in me. We read Arthur's final words together. Marcus and Diane, if you're reading this, I am dead. And Thomas has done his job. Thank you, Thomas. I wrote you both a terrible letter, a letter full of anger and blame and bitterness. I meant every word when I wrote it, but I was wrong. I have spent the last 2 weeks in this motel room, and I have done nothing but think about Patricia, about you, Marcus, about the man I used to be and the man I became. Patricia was my compass. When she died, I lost my way. I became cruel. I took my grief and weaponized it against the people who loved me most. Against you, Diane. Against my grandchildren. Against my son. You did not throw me out. I drove you to it. I made your home a battlefield. I treated your kindness like weakness. And when you finally said enough, I called it betrayal. But it wasn't betrayal. It was survival. And I am sorry, Marcus. You did not choose wrong. You chose your family, your wife, your children. That is what a man does. That is what I taught you to do, even if I forgot it myself. Diane, you were right to protect your children. You were right to set boundaries. You were right to fight for your family. I am sorry I made you the villain in a story where I was the only monster. I am changing my will. Everything I have goes to Emma and Kyle, not because I am trying to control you from beyond the grave, but because I want them to know that their grandfather loved them, that even at my worst, even at the end, I was thinking of them. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not deserve it. But I hope, someday, you can forgive each other. I hope you can repair what my bitterness broke. Marcus, your mother loved you more than life itself. She would want you to be happy. She would want you to fight for your marriage. Don't let my death be the thing that destroys what you and Diane built. And Diane, thank you for trying, for enduring, for loving my son even when I made it almost impossible. I am sorry I will never get to say this to your faces. I am sorry I wasted my last weeks being angry instead of grateful. But I am saying it now. I was wrong. You were right. And I love you both. Arthur couldn't breathe, couldn't see through the tears. Beside me, Marcus was shaking, his face in his hands, sobs staring out of him like something physical. I reached for him without thinking, put my hand on his shoulder, and instead of pulling away like he had for months, he turned into me, buried his face in my shoulder, held onto me like I was the only solid thing in a world that was falling apart. I'm sorry, he choked out. God, Diane, I'm so sorry. I blamed you. I hated you. And he was trying to tell me I know. I whispered, holding him. I know. We sat there in that lawyer's office, clinging to each other, crying for everything we'd lost. For Arthur, for Patricia, for the 6 months we'd wasted in anger and blame, for the family we'd almost destroyed. Thomas Chen quietly left the room, gave us privacy. When he came back 20 minutes later, we were still holding each other. There's one more thing, he said gently. Arthur left instructions. He wanted to be cremated, and he wanted his ashes scattered in the garden behind the house in Millbrook, the house where he and Patricia raised Marcus. He said, and I quote, "That's where I was happiest. That's where I want to rest." Marcus looked up, his face blotchy and wet. The house, it goes to the kids. Yes, in trust. You'll manage it until they're of age. Arthur suggested you might want to keep it in the family, rent it out, or perhaps, Chen paused, perhaps use it yourselves someday. Marcus and I looked at each other, and for the first time in 6 months, I saw something other than anger in his eyes. I saw hope that Saturday. We drove out to Millbrook together, just the 2 of us. The kids were with my sister. The house looked smaller than I remembered. A white two-story with blue shutters, a wraparound porch, and a garden in the back that Patricia had tended for 40 years. It was overgrown now, wild roses tangling with honeysuckle, but still beautiful in a forgotten way. We walked through the house in silence. Everything was exactly as Arthur had left it. Patricia's reading glasses still on the side table, Arthur's coffee mug in the sink, photos on every wall, Marcus as a baby, as a toddler, as a gap-toothed kid with a baseball mitt. I grew up here, Marcus said quietly. We were standing in what used to be his bedroom. There were still glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Right here. This was my whole world. I squeezed his hand. We went out to the garden, stood among the roses and the honeysuckle and the afternoon light filtering through the trees. Marcus was holding the small wooden box that contained his father's ashes. I don't know what to say, he admitted. I don't know how to do this. Just talk to him. Say what you need to say. Marcus opened the box, stood there for a long moment, silent. Then he spoke. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't stronger. I'm sorry I let things get so bad. I'm sorry you died thinking I didn't love you. His voice broke. I loved you. I love you. And I forgive you for everything. I wish I could have told you that before. He scattered the ashes slowly, gently, letting them fall among the flowers his mother had planted. The wind caught them, carried them, settled them into the earth. I put my arm around my husband, rested my head on his shoulder, and we stood there as the sun set, saying goodbye to a complicated, difficult, deeply human man who had loved his family in his own broken way. On the drive home, Marcus reached for my hand. I want to try again, he said. Us, our family. I want to fix what I broke. We both broke it, I said, and we'll both fix it. Can we? After everything? I thought about Arthur's letter, about forgiveness and second chances and the way love survives even the worst of us. Yes, I said. I think we can. It wasn't easy. God knows it wasn't easy. We started therapy, couples therapy, family therapy, individual therapy. Hours and hours of talking through the pain, the resentment, the guilt that had calcified around our hearts like scar tissue. Marcus moved back into our bedroom. Not right away. It took 3 months. But slowly, carefully, we found our way back to each other. The kids were harder. They'd been hurt by our separation, confused by the anger, scared by the instability. Kyle's behavioral problems didn't disappear overnight. Emma had nightmares for months, but we showed up every day. We had family dinners. We went to Kyle's basketball games and Emma's dance recitals. We read bedtime stories and helped with homework, and slowly, rebuilt the foundation we'd cracked. One night, about a year after Arthur died, Emma crawled into bed between Marcus and me. Are you and Daddy going to stay together now? She asked. Marcus looked at me over her head, smiled. Yeah, baby, we are. Good, she said. 'Cause I like it better when you're both here. Me too, I whispered. 2 years after Arthur's death, we made a decision. We sold our house in Riverside, the 3-bedroom with the basement where Arthur had lived and died in our hearts, where we'd fought and broken and almost lost everything, and we moved to Millbrook, into the house where Marcus grew up, into Patricia's garden and Arthur's memories. It felt right, like coming home. We fixed it up together, repainted the walls, updated the kitchen, turned Arthur's old study into a playroom for the kids. But we kept the important things. Patricia's china in the cabinet, Arthur's books on the shelves, the photos on the walls. In the garden, we planted a rose bush, a red one, the kind Patricia used to love. And underneath it, we put a small stone marker. Arthur and Patricia Brennan, beloved parents and grandparents. Forgiveness is love's second chance. Emma and Kyle visited sometimes. Leave flowers. Tell their grandparents about school and friends and their lives. They never met Patricia, and they barely remember Arthur, but they know the stories. They know where they come from, and maybe that's enough. I think about Arthur all the time, about the last time I saw him, stumbling in the rain, his suitcase dragging behind him, about the bitterness in his voice and the pain in his eyes. But I also think about his final letter, about the courage it took to admit he was wrong, about the love that survived his worst moments and bloomed again at the end. Marcus and I talk about him now. Really talk. about the good and the bad, the love and the cruelty, the man he was and the man grief turned him into. Do you think he knew? Marcus asked one night. We were sitting on the porch, watching the kids play in the garden. At the end, do you think he knew we'd be okay? I think he hoped, I said. And hope is enough sometimes. Marcus pulled me close, kissed the top of my head. I'm glad you didn't give up on us. I'm glad you came back. The truth is, Arthur's revenge did change our family forever, just not the way he intended. His first letter, the angry one, the bitter one, it broke us, shattered us into pieces. But his second letter, the one full of apology and love and hard-won wisdom, that's the one that showed us how to put ourselves back together. He taught us that forgiveness isn't weakness, that pride is a prison, that love is messy and complicated, and sometimes it looks like setting boundaries, and sometimes it looks like letting go, and sometimes it looks like trying again even when every part of you is screaming to run. He taught us that families aren't destroyed by conflict. They're destroyed by the refusal to heal. And in his death, in his final words, in the gift he left our children, he gave us a roadmap back to each other. Last week, on what would have been Arthur's 75th birthday, we had a small party in the garden. Just us and the kids and a chocolate cake, Arthur's favorite. Kyle asked if Grandpa Arthur could see us from heaven. Marcus looked at me, smiled. I think so, buddy. I think he's watching. And I think he's proud. Of what? Emma asked. Of us, I said. For being a family. For sticking together. For learning how to forgive. Did you forgive Grandpa Arthur? Kyle asked. For being mean? Marcus and I were quiet for a moment. Then Marcus nodded. Yeah, I did. Because he forgave himself first. And that's the hardest kind of forgiveness there is. We sang happy birthday to a man who wasn't there. Blew out the candles for him. Made wishes. Mine was simple. Let this be enough. Let this life we've rebuilt be enough. And as I looked around at my husband, my children, the garden blooming around us, the house full of memories both painful and beautiful, I realized it already was. Arthur's revenge had been meant to punish us, to make us carry the weight of his death forever, to destroy what we'd built. But love is strange. It doesn't always work the way we think it should. His revenge became our redemption. His anger became our healing. His death became the thing that finally taught us how to live. I stood up, walked to the rose bush we'd planted, touched the petals gently. Thank you, I whispered, for everything, even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts. The wind rustled through the garden. And maybe it was my imagination. Maybe it was just the evening breeze. But I swear I felt something. A presence. A peace. Arthur was gone. But he wasn't forgotten. And maybe, in the end, that's all any of us really want. To be remembered. To matter. To know that our lives, messy and complicated as they are, meant something to someone. Marcus came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist, rested his chin on my shoulder. You okay? He asked. I leaned back into him, watched our kids laughing in the garden where his parents had once walked, where love had bloomed and died and bloomed again. Yeah, I said, I really am. And I meant it. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. We all carry guilt. We all make mistakes. We all hurt the people we love. But we also all deserve second chances. We all deserve forgiveness. We all deserve to come home. Thank you for listening to this journey. May we all find the courage to heal what we've broken, to forgive what we've lost, and to love fiercely even when it hurts, especially when it hurts.